So, NFL Draft 2018 on Thursday night. I thought it was Friday night, so I said I was going to have the primer come out Thursday night. That doesn't make sense because if it's on Thursday night, then I don't have a primer on Thursday night. So probably it'll come out tomorrow night. At the latest, probably at the latest. I mean, I could get it in the afternoon maybe if I really tried, but we'll see. I'll be running some storylines that pertains to the draft, like the storylines that you see coming in, narratives. I won't be talking about all 32 teams like the last primer, because the last primer I did a lot of research. I did a lot of stuff for the last primer, and I also got the NBA playoffs going on. But I will cover specific storylines. And I'll do a mock draft from 1 through 10. Not the entire first round, just the top 10, what I think is going to happen, projected trades, what I think some of the teams will be doing. So, let's get into it. The first narrative I want to talk about is a really key narrative with the New England Patriots. Lamar Jackson going to the New England Patriots at the 23rd pick. Now, here's what I think about this. I think the Patriots could look at the potential to trade up. And I think they will. I think they'll trade up to within the top 15. But I feel like unless they trade someone like the Arizona Cardinals, I do not think they can get Lamar Jackson. Now, I would love Lamar Jackson on the New England Patriots, and he could be a great replacement. Dude is explosive. If you've seen him at Louisville, had a Heisman season. Dude's more of a runner than a passer, but the dude can do everything. He can run, he can pass. Obviously, he's obviously undersized like Russell Wilson was. But with Bill Belichick and the offensive weapons, he could really build something in New England. Here's my thing. I don't think he's going to be available at 23. I think the Cardinals are going to look at it. The Cardinals or any other team's going to look at it, like the Jaguars or any team before New England. They're going to be like, all right, so we could use Lamar Jackson as that quarterback to sit behind our quarterback for a year, and then maybe put him in, get him to fit our system, do these type of things. I don't see Lamar Jackson going to New England at 20, because I feel like this draft there's like 3 quarterbacks, and then there's just no quarterbacks. There's a bunch of running backs. You got Barkley, and then you got a lot of defensive guys like usual that are pretty good, like Denzel Ward, and you got Minka Fitzpatrick. And I just think like there's just so much like talent deficiency in terms of quarterback past some of the big names, past some of the big names like Baker Mayfield. Like, I mean, come on. Like, let's be honest here. Like, other than Sam Darnold, Josh Rosen, Josh Allen, Baker Mayfield, maybe Lamar Jackson as well. But, like, who else is really, like, a quarterback prospect other than those 5 guys? Like, who else have we really been talking about? Who else is really going to be, like, that quarterback out of these 5 quarterbacks? So they're going to go fast off the board, I feel like. And I just feel like by the time it's 23, the Patriots are going to look up and they're going to have to get someone on defense. That's another reason why I think they shouldn't get Lamar Jackson, even if they do have Lamar Jackson available. They need defensive guys. The Patriots need guys on defense who can play well, who can sort of show, like, hey, we have giving an effort on defense, because in the Super Bowl, it was really sad, man. It was really, really sad to see that kind of an effort in a Super Bowl by the New England Patriots, because it's not just any other, it's the Super Bowl, and they let a backup quarterback dominate the pace of the game. The Eagles only punted once, and that was the only punt of the entire game. I mean, for the love of God, man, like, have some self-respect, Bill Belichick. And Bill Belichick is a guy who builds defenses. But lately, Bill Belichick doesn't want to pay anybody. Bill Belichick's like, okay, I'm not paying Jamie Collins. I'm not paying this other guy. And then the one guy they did have at linebacker got injured. So maybe I think they could trade up and get a linebacker, but I don't know if Bradley Chubb's even going to be available this late. I don't know about Roquan Smith. Roquan Smith, I think he'd go in the top 10 as well, probably the 49ers or Raiders. But they're doing a good job of, showing teams like, hey, we're looking at prospects and we're trying to see who we can really get. And I think having 2 first-round picks really helps the Patriots in this case, because if they want to trade up, they could just trade both first-round picks. What are you going to do with 23 and 30 if you can go up to, like, maybe 15 or, like, 10 or, like, maybe 5 or 6? Or people have been speculating they're trying to get the 4th pick from the Browns, which is still possible. But if they get the 4th pick, that means they get, like, a prime QB prospect. And it probably means they get Josh Allen. Because the way the draft is structuring right now, the Giants are looking towards Saquon Barkley, and I did piece on this earlier in my draft coverage. About how I said it would be a mistake if the Giants did go that way, and I do think it's a mistake because the Giants don't need a running back. But if the Giants do go running back in this situation, then you got either Josh Allen or Josh Rosen at an option at number 4. Because if Sam Darnold goes number 1, the Browns also have the 4th pick. So if they trade that with the Patriots to accumulate more picks, then the Patriots got either Josh Allen or Josh Rosen to pick from. And that's a prime QB prospect that they can build over, like if Tom Brady continues to keep playing a couple of seasons, they can develop the guy behind him, which is what they were doing there. They were drafting quarterbacks after Tom Brady. They kept drafting, and they finally found someone. They found Jimmy Garoppolo, and obviously Bill Belichick wasn't too thrilled when he was forced to have to trade Jimmy Garoppolo to the 49ers. He didn't trade him to the Browns. The Browns had an accumulation of picks for Jimmy Garoppolo, a bunch of first-rounders, and Bill Belichick said, no, I'm going to wait, because I think Jimmy Garoppolo is the next protege, and I think he's better than Tom. He has the potential to be better than Tom Brady in this system. And Tom Brady said no. And Robert Kraft listened to him, and now he's in San Francisco. So Lamar Jackson would be the makeup pick. I feel like, yes, there was some Patriots turmoil. I think that's sort of grounded at this point. I don't think there's too much turmoil in terms of the Patriots. But I think the real problem here is just that the Patriots are playing too much of a cat and mouse, and they need a quarterback. So I think that's why the potential of Lamar Jackson going to New England is high. But I just feel like with all the teams that need a quarterback right now and all the teams that are ahead of him, there are 22 teams ahead of him. I feel like there's one of those teams that's willing to roll the dice on Lamar Jackson just for the media narrative. Just for the narrative that they got a Heisman winner, you know what I mean? Just for that one narrative, I feel as if Lamar Jackson will be drafted before then. Here's what I really like about Lamar Jackson, okay? This dude was a Heisman winner. This dude knows how to lead a team. But when he played Clemson both times, he choked against a good defense. And the NFL, you got tons of good defenses. So that's a little bit of a concern for me about Lamar Jackson, how he's going to fare against an NFL defense that's going to specifically game plan for him. Because I feel like some of these teams in college, you're playing, you're just having fun. You're not, there's a lot of people out there who don't take college football seriously. So when he comes to the NFL and everything's money and everything's everyone takes everything seriously, I want to see how Lamar Jackson is going to perform under those bright lights, because I think that's what's going to make Lamar Jackson a great player if he can perform and if he can live up to those expectations that everybody is putting on him. And I think he will, because I think he's one of those players who has the potential to do that. Obviously, I remember him at the Combine and guys asking him to switch to wide receiver, which is so weird because why would he switch to wide receiver when he's been playing quarterback his whole life? They're disrespecting a Heisman winner. So like I said, the New England Patriots, I do think they will get Lamar Jackson if he's at 23. But like I said, I do not believe that Lamar Jackson will be available at number 23. And I think if the Patriots do end up trading up, they might trade up for Lamar Jackson or possibly even Baker Mayfield. If they get in the top 10 somewhere, they could look at those prospects, or they could get Josh Allen or Josh Rosen. Depending on where the Patriots trade up, they could go after a better quarterback than Lamar Jackson, or Lamar Jackson maybe a couple picks up. So unless I see the Patriots trading up outside the top 10, 11 or 12 or 13, 14, 15, or maybe there, maybe in the top 15 possibly. But if they go top 10, they might go Baker Mayfield. So only way I see them getting Lamar Jackson is if they're inside the top 15. If not, I think Lamar Jackson will go to a different... We'll go to the Arizona Cardinals or the Jacksonville Jaguars or some other team who has a need for a quarterback at a good pick for a good value, who can also sit Lamar Jackson for a year and then try to see if he develops into something. So unless they're in the top 15, I don't see a chance for Lamar Jackson to be a New England Patriot. Sorry to kill the storyline and narrative, but that's just what I think about how Lamar Jackson is going to be put in there. So I'm going to move on to the next narrative here. Cleveland Browns considering Baker Mayfield at the number 1 pick. Okay, I like Baker Mayfield, okay? Let's just get this part out of the way. I like Baker Mayfield. He's a good kid. The dude plays... I know about his drunken driven arrest, but the dude, when he's on the football field, he has a passion to play football. We can't forget how he plays football. Come on. I understand the drink and drive isn't great for the character. And obviously in the NFL, people aren't really going to appreciate that. And that might even be a turnoff to some teams of not drafting him. But here's what I'm saying. Baker Mayfield at number 1 is a mistake. Now, Baker Mayfield maybe before Josh Allen, I could see that. I could see him at maybe 4. I could see him at maybe 5 or 6. I think Baker Mayfield at number 1 is a huge mistake because Sam Darnold has played 2 years of college football at this point, and he came in and he turned a USC team into a Rose Bowl team. And then last year they went to another BCS Bowl as well. They got slammed by Nick Bosa and Ohio State. But Sam Darnold, I've seen Sam Darnold personally play, so I can vouch for Sam Darnold. Like, the way his footwork works, like, the way he, moves around, scrambles around, finds receivers, throws the ball downfield, has great field vision, has all these things. I think that's one thing that he has that Baker Mayfield doesn't, is maturity and composure. And if Baker Mayfield gets the maturity level and the composure level at the same, Baker Mayfield can be a great quarterback. Because if you remember, Baker Mayfield did choke against Georgia in the playoff, and that was more of a defensive problem, because obviously they couldn't stop the running backs, Sony Michel and Nick Chubb. But I feel like if Baker Mayfield had enough composure in that situation, they could have kept the big lead, because they were up huge on Georgia, and then they choked. So here's my problem on this, okay? Baker Mayfield, like I said, he's a great, great kid. But I think those are reasons in the NFL why a GM would be turned off, like maturity and composure. And I mean, you can't say anything bad about Baker Mayfield's game, because Baker Mayfield has been a gamer. I mean, dude has just played straight up 2 years. He took Oklahoma to the playoff 1 year. I think they got smoked by Clemson, and then after that he took them this year. They got beaten by Clemson. I think Baker Mayfield is just one of those quarterbacks where he has to have a lot of things surrounded next to him. And I do think if he goes to the Browns, the Browns got Josh Gordon, and the Browns got Jarvis Landry, so he would be surrounded by good receivers. He needs a good running back as well. I feel like for Baker Mayfield, more than Sam Darnold, you have to build a system. And I feel like for Baker Mayfield, they'd have to build a little bit of a college system early on. And I just don't think Hugh Jackson is that kind of coach for Baker Mayfield. It's going to suit him well. Because I feel like Hugh Jackson is that guy who could suit Sam Darnold. Because Sam Darnold has the maturity and composure to sit there and be like, okay, I need to do these things. I need to follow coach's game plan. But Baker Mayfield, the problem sometimes with quarterbacks who can run and pass is they think they can do everything in the world. So Baker Mayfield, what would end up happening if he went to Cleveland is that Baker Mayfield would end up trying to do too much, and I think it would take away from the team, and I think it would just be more of the Baker, in college, it was the Baker Mayfield show. But once you leave college and you go to the pros, it's a team sport. So I feel like Baker Mayfield wouldn't really be that team player who would be like, hey, we gotta win the game today. I feel like once he goes to the pros, he'd be like that guy with the individual stat stuffer. And I know in football, it's ridiculous to call people stat stuffers. Because in football, it's a very tough sport. You gotta hit people around and, but I just see it happening like that. I just see it happening where Baker Mayfield goes out of college, he thinks he's the shit, and then, he just puts up too many stats, and he's hurting the team because he's not making good decisions with the football. Because, like I said, all the defenses are out and ready to come and play you. In college, sometimes you watch it, the defenses aren't really pro-level defenses all the time. You could play a Kansas 1 week, or you could play someone else, but if you start on a team like the Browns, every team you play is going to be tough, because your team sucks. And I just don't feel like Baker Mayfield has that, quality in him to, lead a team from down dumps. I feel like if Baker Mayfield went to the Miami Dolphins, that would actually be, the perfect fit for him. Because I just think, Miami just needs an explosive quarterback, stat stuffer guy who sells tickets. And Miami is, you're playing Buffalo and New York 4 times a year. It's not that much of a, thing. And he'd be good on New York, too. That would be another perfect fit for him. But I just don't see him on a team like Cleveland that's rebuilding, that's trying to come back, and that's trying to show, hey, we have this going on, and we need you to help us do this. I just don't see Baker Mayfield being a good fit. So Sam Darnold, I think would be a better fit for Cleveland. I see why they're considering Baker Mayfield. Like I said, he was a gamer. He put up a lot of great stats, and he did perform in some big moments for the Oklahoma Sooners. But the Big 12 is a pillow fight conference, and I've heard so many people say this. Like, the Big 12 is the trashiest conference ever, and I agree. Like, it's just terrible conference for football, and the success there means nothing. Like, I could see if he was like an SEC quarterback, because the SEC defense is the top. And yes, when he did play an SEC defense, I'll give him credit. He did play well against Georgia. They did choke and lose, but I mean, come on. Like, let's be real here. Sam Darnold is a little bit better and a little bit more mature and a little bit more composed than Baker Mayfield to make a difference when they come right into the league, depending on the situation in the franchise. And it's just, I don't see Baker Mayfield making a difference in Cleveland. I could see him in New York or possibly even Miami, possibly going in, being a good player, uplifting the franchise, sort of helping them win some games. I don't know about playoffs right now, but like, the ceiling is high for Baker Mayfield if he can get those stuff together. So, next, moving to the next narrative here. San Francisco needs to have a strong defensive draft yet again. So, offensively, they're fine. They got receivers, and then they got a running back. I mean, they did lose Carlos Hyde. But, like, there are a lot of running backs in this draft, so they could go, like, maybe second or third round and then get some guy, like, solid. They don't need to, like, worry too much about running back, I feel like. They can wait for that. Defensively, though, I feel like they're good, but they're just not there yet. And I have, in some of the drafts, they are projected to get Minkah Fitzpatrick. Or if Bradley Chubb is available, I'd say take him. Like I said, I think the Niners, they have a lot of pieces on offense. Garoppolo, the receivers, they got some good receivers as well. Obviously, they did lose Carlos Hyde, but I don't think it'll be a big loss. I think they'll try to get someone from the draft, try to develop him maybe, try to see if he, works. Like I said, you don't have to go get a running back till like 4th or 5th round, because there are a lot of good running backs in this draft. But I just think the 49ers, in order for them to be a good team this year, because of the division they play in, Jared Goff, Russell Wilson, and if the Cardinals potentially draft Lamar Jackson, they could be, or another quarterback, they could be in for a long season if they don't have a good defensive game plan. Because I feel like with Garoppolo and Shanahan, you can trust those guys. Because those guys are good. You know that those guys are going to figure it out in OTAs. And when you have a coach who's an offensive mind, you tend to work with him to try to find a solution. So that's what I really, really like about both of these guys, Garoppolo and Shanahan, because I feel like they're both going to do a very good job of working together in terms of how we need to, like, do this and how we need to take care of business and how we need to, show that we can kind of, do these things. So here's what I think the main problem is, okay? And I'm going to say this because I know the Niners are a good team. I think the problem is they're just not, like, they put together good efforts, but I feel like on defense, they give up. They're just like, they don't have the personnel, and I feel like their players get a little discouraged. So instead of, just to keep playing, they're like, you know what? We can't do this. We give up. I'm done. You can't do that in the pros, man. You can't just, like, blatantly give up and then, like, expect everything to come to you. And I feel like the Niners on defense, they do that a little too much, because there were a lot of games where they were super competitive. Like, they ended 6-10, but there were like a lot of games where they could have like turned it around, went 10-6, because there were some games, like I said, they were competitive. They put together the efforts, but on defense, it just wasn't there. There's that one stop that they needed that they couldn't get, or that like one thing they couldn't do on defense that basically screwed them. And this team could have easily went from 6-10 to 10-6 or 9-7 or 8-8 or something like, reasonable. But like 6-10 is, I mean, it's reasonable because you look at all the close games they had. They could have honestly went 11-5, but as a football team, you have to be able to click on both ends of the field. And I feel like the 49ers, only offensively are they clicking, but not defensively. So maybe they want to also look at getting some defensive ends, putting some pressure on maybe if they can't get cornerbacks. I would say cornerbacks first, cornerbacks, safeties. Then you go after some defensive end. They did get on a defensive end last year. So they could look at that, try to get, develop pieces, man. That's all you got to do in the draft. Like I said, I still think the 49ers are a couple of years out of the playoffs. I just think that division's a little too tough, but I think the first step for them would be to build defense, and I think they should start in this draft itself. I think defensively, if they fill their needs, offensively, people will come to them. You know what I mean? Like, Garoppolo and Shanahan, like, people will come to, see those guys, try and put it together in San Francisco. People are saying San Francisco is the dark horse team to win the Super Bowl. I don't see them as a dark horse or a Super Bowl contender this year. I have to see them play, like the first 10 games. Like, I need to see like a little sample size of like what they can do in a full season. Because Garoppolo, he came in at the end, only 5 games, only won 5 games. So like, I mean, some of those 5 games, some of those were like teams resting. Like the last one, the Rams were resting, or like the other teams were just like taking a break because like they were like, oh, it's the Niners, they're 1-10, and then Garoppolo comes in, plays well. I will give him credit because he did play well against Jacksonville, and Jacksonville is a very good defensive team, and that kind of screwed Jacksonville for probably a 1 seed in that AFC. I mean, that was one of those games where like you were watching it and you didn't know what was happening because Garoppolo was dominating, and you had Jalen Ramsey and all these guys, and they were just straight up dominating. And it was so funny to watch because you would see this Jacksonville defense get completely picked apart. So like I said, offensively, they're fine. But defensively, they get some pieces. I could really see this San Francisco team really turn into a contender in this next couple of years. If they just keep drafting well on defense, offense, getting their needs, they could be one of those teams that turns it around for themselves. All right, so moving to the next narrative, the Buffalo Bills need to trade up to the second spot and get a quarterback here. And I've projected the Buffalo Bills to trade up to the second spot, and I think they should. Here's why, okay? The Giants are high on Saquon Barkley. The Bills still have a pretty high first-round pick. So the Giants could easily just trade out of it, accumulate some picks, still manage to get Barkley, and the Bills could get a quarterback for the future. They could get their Josh Rosen or their Josh Allen or their Baker or whoever they're considering as their quarterback for the future. Because they cannot start next year with Nathan Peterman. Okay? Nathan Peterman is garbage. I saw him in that play. They put him in a pressure situation in the playoff game, obviously. But it was still terrible for them. They sucked. I don't see a situation where you can give Nathan Peterman the ball and be like, here, you are the franchise of this team. Come on. Yo. Come on, man. Really? How are you gonna sit up here and tell me that that's how you want to assess your team? Now, let's be honest here, okay? I really like how this team plays and how they operate and how they do things. But this is not what I want to see out of a team like the Buffalo Bills. Tyrod Taylor was a really good quarterback, okay? I'm going to be honest with you, okay? If you can get the Buffalo Bills to go to the playoffs, he's a good quarterback. And they let him go, and that didn't make sense to me. Because why let a guy who just led you to the playoffs versus Nathan Peterman? I mean, obviously, like I said, I don't think the Bills, can afford to give up too much in this Giants trade because they still got enough to do in the future. But I feel like the Bills, they gotta try something. I mean, I honestly feel like the Giants would be willing to do this trade. I just feel like the Giants are that team where they're like, all right, they look at the running backs. I feel like what happened with Eli kind of killed their chances of getting a quarterback because now they're trying to play catch up with Eli Manning, and they're trying to be like, oh, Eli, come back, So, like, I just think, like, it's just not, like, it's sad. Because you don't really see the New York Giants going through a certain situation like this. But they are, and it sucks because they're the Giants, and it's the Big Apple, and they're doing a good job of building the team. But this is ridiculous, man. I can't believe, I'm saying this is out of the Giants, from the New York Giants. A franchise like this should not have to go through something like this. This is sad to me. I find this very pathetic. And here's the thing about this, okay? Eli Manning should not be treated like this, A. B, if they do get a quarterback, I feel like Eli is just going to be like, release me because now I know I'm out of here and you guys are building towards the future. And here's the thing. They should have just been honest with him the whole time. Instead, they try to play like a two-way game and Ben McAdoo was slighting him and everybody was slighting him. And now, I bet you that Eli Manning probably feels like complete shit. And so, like, to appease him, they're like, okay, it was a bad system last year. Ben McAdoo's out of here. Everyone's out of here. But I feel like the real guy who needs to be out of here is Eli Manning because he's mediocre. But anyway, sorry about my side tangent to the New York Giants. But hey, Buffalo Bills, you want a team to trade with who's in turmoil, who also needs picks for the future? You know, maybe you say, I'll give you the first round next year as well, right? Because you have confidence that whatever quarterback you're bringing in is going to take you to the playoffs. I mean, if Tyrod fucking Taylor could do it, like, honestly, anybody could do it. Like, let's be real here, okay? Like, let's be real, okay? I mean, it's just, I don't, man, like, I can't even stop. I can't contain myself, man. It's sad that the Buffalo Bills are really going to try to consider Nathan Peterman. But yeah, like, I feel like the Bills could be another one of those teams that jumps on Lamar Jackson first round. But I think that they really got to talk to the Giants and see if the Giants can do something for him. But yes, number 2 pick, I think the Bills got to go for it. Got to go get a quarterback. I mean, come on. You know, it's draft day. Tick, 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 tick. You know, it's draft time. Like, you got to, like, pick it up, man. That's why some franchises, they just stay on the low because, they just, Okay. So the next narrative I want to cover is, okay, so last year, you saw the New Orleans Saints, you know, not make the playoffs, didn't do well, couldn't play any defense, and this year, they went and got Alvin Kamara and that other guy who missed a defensive stop. Now, Alvin Kamara was a big offensive piece for them. And I think the defensive guy also, obviously, fucked up in the divisional playoff game. But he was also the reason why they came back and they gave it strong competition. So I think the team this year who's going to benefit most from the draft and who's going to build as a team are John Gruden's Oakland Raiders. I think they got a pick in the top 10, which I think they're going to use on probably Ward or Fitzpatrick or someone on defense. I honestly feel like, in my opinion, I feel like go get pass rush help for Khalil Mack. Because Khalil Mack and Bruce Irvin are the only 2 guys there. Cornerbacks are weak. So maybe you go after a cornerback as well. I actually scratched the defensive end. Go after a cornerback. Make sure you guys are, like, secure on the defensive end. Because offensively, they did lose Michael Crabtree. But the Raiders still got Derek Carr and Amari Cooper, and they did pick up Doug Martin and Marshawn Lynch, so they're trying running back. Honestly, they could go for a running back as well. I think it would be a waste because they're more in need of a defensive team than an offensive team. Like, I feel like Derek Carr and those guys figured out on offense, but on defense, you gotta make an effort. Like, the cornerbacks, I feel like in the years past, they didn't really make an effort. Like, the Raiders, like, I feel like they were like astonished by their own success because there are so many pieces on their team that was, like, still missing, and they still somehow made the playoffs. So I feel like they could still, with better pieces on defense, at least, like cornerbacks and safeties, like, they still have the potential to be one of those playoff teams and give new, like, the year that Derek Carr was healthy, 2 years ago, they were a threat to knock off the Patriots in the AFC. They were that good. They were that talented and young and good. And they can still do that. But in order for them to do that, they have to draft well. If they don't draft well, they can't go in to the next season being confident that they were able to fix what was wrong with the team. And I understand, you know, like, it's tough. You look at the draft evaluations and you got to sit there. But I feel like with John Gruden, they're really going to get this right because John Gruden is obviously in years past he's done Monday Night Football, and that's how he's like watched the draft and covered the draft. But this year he's gonna be in an NFL front office doing the draft. But I still trust John Gruden. Like, I feel like if there's a team in the NFL that can turn it around, it is the Oakland Raiders. And I feel like they could have one of the fastest turnarounds, because I feel like they were that team that, if you saw them play last year, like, the gap between them making the playoffs and not making the playoffs was very narrow. Despite the fact that they had so many glaring deficiencies, they were still able to find a way to be able to be like, hey, here's something wrong we did. Let's go out and let's try to correct this. I admire that. Because I feel like, as a team, it's tough to go out. It's tough to admit that you're wrong. And I feel like the Raiders are that team where they're being a little scared. And yes, they did fire Jack Del Rio, which they could not have done. I mean, I don't understand why they did that, but bringing in John Gruden was a masterful move. And it's a good move because the dude knows football. If the dude can do like a draft thing every year, the dude obviously knows football very, very well. And I'm happy for him because I want to see them succeed as a football team. They got a good program and they got stuff rolling, and that's just how they're just good. But I just feel as if the Raiders if they sit there, and I feel like this is what John Gruden's doing. Okay, John Gruden's saying, okay, we were young, you guys had fun before, but now it's time to win. So I think John Gruden's going to do a really good job in terms of draft evaluation. Look at the prospects. I mean, he's done it on ESPN for years. But I think John Gruden's going to really do a good job of breaking down the film, watching it, trying to find, like, hey, this is this here, this is that here. He's going to find holes, and he's going to try and, like, close them out, and he's going to try to, like, be like, all right, so this is what we need to do. This is what they need to do. And this is how we're gonna, do this. I mean, obviously, it's tough. I understand. But I just do think that they can get defensive with their draft position. They'll get some good defensive pieces this year. Offensively, they'll be fine. They can maybe pick up a running back later or a wide receiver later. I think the Raiders are back on their way. I think the Raiders are back on their way to being that team, that surprise team that sort of caught everybody off guard. It was sort of like, hey, we're good again. And then they sucked again last year. They didn't have good free agency last year. They got Bruce Irvin, obviously, and they got a bunch of defensive pieces. Because Jack Del Rio is a defensive coach. But it's good to see teams like this be in a good position to succeed. But it all depends on how they do in the draft, and I do think they will be next year's New Orleans Saints, where they get some of those pieces. Sorry about that. And they improve. You know what I mean? They get those pieces, they improve, they go to the playoffs, and they look like a real contender. Okay, so the next narrative I want to talk about. The NFC has quarterbacks all over the place, okay? Every division, everyone has at least a young quarterback, a guy they want to develop, or someone, established, like Aaron Rodgers, Matthew Stafford, Carson Wentz, Drew Brees, Matt Ryan, Cam Newton. That division is Jared Goff, Russell Wilson, Jeremy Garoppolo. The NFC is completely stacked. And then you got the Arizona Cardinals. Bruce Arians resigned. Carson Palmer's looking kind of old. He's not really a quarterback anymore, to be honest with you. They need to either go after Lamar Jackson or Baker Mayfield in this draft. Or else, they're not going to compete in the NFL this year. Because here's the thing. Their division has Jared Goff, Russell Wilson, and Jimmy Garoppolo. That is a very, very tough division to even fathom getting out of. Now, if they want to at least compete in this division, they gotta go out. They gotta go do it, man. They gotta go get a quarterback. They gotta find a way to trade up. Now, here's why I think Lamar Jackson would be a perfect fit over maybe a Baker Mayfield. Lamar Jackson, dude, has a lot of mobility, moves around. Good. I feel like he's the type of guy who wants to learn more about the offensive system. And I feel like him putting him with Fitzgerald and David Johnson would be really, really explosive. Like, that would be one of the funnest offenses in the NFL. They may not win much. They may be like a 6-10. They may be last year's Niners. They could be competitive. They could play well, and they could lose games. But they'd be fun, and they'd be building towards something, right? And I feel like Lamar Jackson is just willing to learn more. And like I said earlier about Baker Mayfield in one of the earlier narratives, I just don't think his maturity and composure are there yet for the pros, right? And I just think Lamar Jackson is like that kind of guy who I feel like you put him in an offensive system and he's willing to learn. Like, there are other guys in this league who, like, you put them in a system and they're not willing to learn. They just want to do what they want to do, and they want to, run the offense the way they want to run it, and have an ego, and they don't work well with the coach. I feel like Lamar Jackson is different. I feel like Lamar Jackson will work with the coach. We'll be like, okay, this is what I need to do, coach. Got it. Okay. So let's move to the other one I said. Baker Mayfield. Now, like I said, with Baker Mayfield, you're going to have your hands a little full in terms of maturity and composure. But Baker Mayfield, kind of almost not the same player. Maybe I say Baker Mayfield has the better arm, because Lamar Jackson is more of a runner. And with Baker, I don't know if Baker Mayfield's going to be available for the Cardinals also, because Baker Mayfield may be going to the Jets at 3, or the Dolphins at 6, or possibly somewhere in the top 10, because I feel like Baker Mayfield is that prospect that people are looking at right now, and they're actually, like, breaking down film. They're saying, okay, this guy may be talented enough for the headache. Like, I guess that's maybe what the Giants are doing with Odell Beckham Jr. Maybe they're like, okay, this guy's worth the headache. So, anyway, like I said, Baker Mayfield. So this guy's got a strong arm. He can run all over the field. He has proven that he can lead Oklahoma, a team, I guess, a team that is kind of stacked in terms of every position and not defensively great, to great wins and to the playoff. So maybe the Cardinals are looking at this and saying, okay, we don't have a great defense. We just got rid of Honey Badger. Patrick Patterson is still great. But they're looking at this and they're like, okay, we have a decent defense. We have David Johnson, Larry Fitzgerald. We have some good offensive pieces. So if Baker Mayfield comes into this system, he has a chance to succeed because he was in and if we build, So if he comes into the system, Baker Mayfield has a shot as to where he could possibly be a very good prospect in this system. Because we run an offensive with Bruce Arians had a great offensive system, and I obviously don't know how this offensive system is going to change now that Bruce Arians resigned. But if the Cardinals come in and they say, okay, Baker, we'll let you run your offense, this could be a potential marriage for both sides. But like I said, the likelihood of Baker Mayfield going to the Cardinals is kind of low. I do think he could be one of the perfect fits for the Cardinals. I think the more perfect fit is obviously Lamar Jackson, because I said Baker Mayfield. You know what I said about Baker Mayfield, right? Like, the dude is just straight up, great. You know what I mean? The dude is greatness, okay? The dude is greatness defined. The great Baker Mayfield. And Lamar Jackson as well. Heisman winner. Dude is straight up. Both are Heisman winners. But here's what I'm trying to say. I just think for this Cardinal team, it would be another Cardinal team for Lamar Jackson. But I think Lamar Jackson would do it. I think Lamar Jackson would be the deal sealer for this Cardinal team. I think to make him competitive again. And it's just, it is what it is. You got to, go after the players you want to get. And you want to try in the draft. I think the Cardinals want to be that team that tries to get a quarterback, some offensive pieces as well. I just don't think I see the Cardinals as a team where I look at them and I'm like, okay, they got some glaring needs. And if they address those, they could possibly be competitive. But I just don't see them as that team right now. But I feel like this is one of those drafts where they have to get a young quarterback, so they can build towards other drafts. So, everybody, like I said, everybody else in the NFC has a quarterback right now. Garoppolo, Wilson, Goff. So the Cardinals just got to build towards next draft, build towards something they really need, and I think they'll be fine. I think as long as they look like they're building. Obviously without Fitzgerald, you want to go after a receiver at some point, which they could. But I feel like the quarterback is essential in football, and I think they should go get it. So I think the Arizona Cardinals, if they get a quarterback next year, Lamar Jackson better fit, like I said, or Baker Mayfield could be very competitive next year, and possibly could be the 49ers were this year. So good job, good move for the Arizona Cardinals. So the next narrative I want to kind of cover in this packed draft of loaded narratives is the narrative that Antonio Callaway was tested positive for marijuana at the NFL Combine. I do think this is going to drop his stock. I don't know how much it's going to drop his stock. Obviously, there was a video of Laramie Tunzel doing something prior to draft night, which dropped his stock a little bit. Ended up getting drafted, going to the Miami Dolphins, so it didn't really affect him there. Here, it might really affect Antonio Callaway of the Florida Gators. Dude is a very talented receiver. I've seen him play. Obviously, Florida hasn't had the quarterbacks they do in the years past, so obviously he hasn't been able to showcase his talent. But in some games, he has performed, and he has played very, very well. And he's a very, very, in my eyes, I see him as a very good prospect, because I feel like he could go to a team like the Atlanta Falcons, or Drew Brees and New Orleans Saints, and I feel like he's that receiver who's tall, he's big, and he can run really, really fast. So I think he'll be able to adapt very, very well to this. But I don't understand, here's what I don't understand about pro sports and pro athletes. Why are you taking drugs? Why are you ruining your own life by taking drugs? This is sad to me, because you got millions and millions and millions of dollars, and you lose it because you take drugs. Why do pro athletes feel the need to do drugs when they're already going to be so rich? I think it's extremely boneheaded that he did this, especially at the Combine. Do it later, man. Do it in your spare time. Do it recreationally. Look at Odell Beckham. I mean, do something like that. You don't have to do it at the NFL fucking Combine. And he tested positive. So that's going to turn a lot of teams off, because he's already like a late first rounder, early second rounder. So now he's probably like a late third rounder, fourth rounder, fifth rounder. Alfonso Dennard got caught with drugs, and this dude went all the way to the 7th round. Alfonso Dennard was very talented cornerback. He didn't get drafted by the Patriots, and he was dude was very talented. But he did drugs, and nobody wanted to put a guy who did drugs on their team. See, I feel like in the NFL, character and professionalism is given a different type of regard. In college, you can do whatever you want. You smoke weed, you can go around partying everywhere, doing everything. Hell, Josh Rosen even had a hot tub in his dorm room. You can do whatever you want in college. College is just that place where you have fun, you do everything with your friends, you put everything, you take everything off your bucket list and scratch it off. You have fun. But when it comes to the pros, you gotta be a little bit more mature. And this is, like I said, my main criticism of Baker Mayfield as well. But this guy, he just put millions and millions of dollars, and he threw it away. He threw it completely away. You know why? Because he wanted to do recreational drugs. This is like a cautionary tale. Because it's like, hey kids, don't do drugs or you'll lose out on millions and millions of dollars. And it sucks. It sucks for guys like this, because they're talented. They know how to play the game. They come in, but they don't get the right type of opportunity because of bullshit like this. Because of them testing positive, or them not being able to keep their hands to themselves, or them doing some other bad character thing. And they can just never rebound from a bad character thing. And if there's one thing about the NFL, some of these GMs and executives, they never forget. They're going to put it on you all the time. Why'd you do this? Why'd you do this? Why? And you have to be prepared to answer the question on why you did it. So Antonio Callaway, I don't really like his chances of getting drafted higher now, because all these GMs and executives are going to look at him and be like, so Antonio Callaway, talented player, but some off-field issues. And to be honest with you, he's good, he's strong, but nobody really knows what he could do. He could be put in a system like Juju Smith, and he could probably thrive. But you can't just test positive for marijuana and then go on a fucking NFL roster. That's not how that works, but whatever. You know, the NFL probably take him probably late 6th or 7th round now. Probably not like I said, 3rd or 4th. I'll scratch that. I think he'll go 5th, 6th, or 7th at this point. It's terrible, man. These guys gotta have some sort of character, man. Like, it's so bad to see pro athletes not have a good character because it sends a bad rep for the league, for the players, for everybody, man. And it's terrible. I don't know why they do this. It's just, I think it's just absolutely disgusting that these athletes think that they can just go out and do marijuana or if in the draft, at least do it like in your free time. Like, I don't care, you know what I mean? But like, don't do it like right before the NFL draft. Okay. So another feel-good story in this draft, Shaquem Griffin. If you've heard of him from UCF, Shaquem Griffin, obviously, his arm. Everybody knows about that. I'm not going to touch upon that. I think that's very sad. I don't think that's appropriate to touch on. So I'm going to, just say that everybody knows about his arm. And the dude's an inspiration. And I think the dude can go late 1st round or late 2nd round. I think a team like probably the Steelers pick him up. Steelers or the Raiders. A team in dire need of either a backup linebacker or a team that needs like a really good linebacker right now. And I think the Steelers need a linebacker because Ryan Shazier is coming off serious surgery. So you don't know how you're going to get with Ryan Shazier. So why don't you go out and get somebody like they got T.J. Watt last year, so they didn't get this guy, and now you're building like young linebackers, young defense. I think that's the problem with Pittsburgh right now. They're building too much young on defense, and it's getting too young, it's getting burned. But I really like Shaquem Griffin because this guy defines toughness to me. Okay? He didn't have to keep going. He could have stopped somewhere. He could have stopped anywhere. But this guy, he looked at it, he said, you know what? I'm not going to feel sorry for myself. I'm going to go out there, I'm going to give 110%, and then what happens? Hey, man, it happens. Everything happens for a reason. And he is accepting that, and he's molding that into his own sort of thought, and he's doing a good job of just showing that, he's like, you know what, I'm here to stay in this league. I know what you guys think about my arm, but I'm performing. So, get me on a roster. And I honestly could see John Elway and the Broncos possibly trading into the 1st round for him. I don't think with the 5th pick you draft him, obviously. But I feel like if he's there in the 1st round and John Elway sees him, I think John Elway might go after him. Because I feel like John Elway is that kind of guy who takes the risks on other guys who aren't as good or as talented as other people think they are, because John Elway sort of sees football in a different sort of GM way, and I think that's what makes these GMs so great, is that some of them see it in a different perspective, and that different perspective usually helps them in building their team back from the scratch. So, hey, it is what it is, there are a lot of teams that will probably pass on Shaquem Griffin. It's just what it is, man. Like, some guys will be like, oh, it's his arm, we got concerns, we got this, we got that. And it's just, what are you gonna do? Like, oh, hey, Shaquem Griffin, you can't do anything about it. You just gotta have to move on. So, like I said, Shaquem Griffin's a good feel-good story of this NFL draft. And I hope he gets drafted. I hope he gets an impact on a good team. Because seeing guys like this, like I said, inspires toughness, instills a lot of determination in young kids. Like, hey, you can go out and play football, you know what I mean? You can go out and play football at the highest level. You can do whatever you want. You can do however you want it. And it doesn't matter, honestly, it also fires up people with disabilities. Because now, they're looking at this and being like, hey, I can do this too. Okay? I can go out. I can play football at a high level. Because if this guy can do it, I can do it. And that's inspirational to me. And I always feel like guys who are inspirational kids, and guys who have good characters. It's just not just a football field for me. I need to see guys off the field be a good character. Like, that's another critique of Baker Mayfield I have. But hey, it is what it is. And what are you going to do about it? So, yeah, I think I see Shaquem Griffin going in the late 1st round. Early 2nd round, just because of the way his production might be in the NFL, and also his amazing combine sets and the way he has shown his toughness and will to get through life and get to this point. So, another narrative I think is very, very important here. Personal opinion here, because this is a very strong one of mine. I think Josh Allen is going to be a bust, okay? I've seen this guy's arm. It's a good arm. Not a bad arm. Ryan Leaf had a good arm, okay? Like, let's not sit up here and be like, Josh Allen is the future. No. That's garbage. Get that out of here. You don't know why it's garbage? Josh Allen played at fucking Wyoming. Wyoming, man. Like, I've seen some of Josh Allen's tape, and I see, like, people saying he's John Elway. No, slow down. You guys need to chill, man. No way. I've seen Josh Allen tape. You know what I see? I see maybe, like, a Ryan Mallett. Like, that's a ceiling for him. I see, like, maybe a Ryan Mallett. I mean, I have been wrong before. I thought Luke Kuechly was going to be a bust. And if I'm wrong, I'll own up to it. I won't be like fucking Mel Kiper and being a little snot bitch and be like, no, I won't fire myself because I'm still smart, even though I made a terrible, terrible draft declaration 8 years ago and I'm a huge fucking fraud. I mean, come on. This dude made a draft declaration that he would fire himself 8 years later. And I haven't seen that guy deliver on his shit yet. Like, I mean, I'm not trying to expose him, but, like, come on, man. Like, be a word of your man. Like, that's just sad that you do shit like that. Like, how can I sit up here and support people like you doing draft orders? Like, what the hell? Like, I get that you do research and studies and you're smart and stuff. But, like, if you say you're gonna do something, do it. Own up to it. Don't be like a fucking empty word, man. I hate those kind of people. They're all empty words. Anyway. Josh Allen, also the situation he'd be thrown in. So he'd be put probably on, my projection would be probably either the Bills or the Jets. I don't think he goes to the Broncos. I don't think he's going to be available past the top 3. I don't think he goes to the Colts. I don't think he goes to Tampa Bay. I don't think he goes to Chicago. I don't think he goes to, like, I think he's like a top 5 pick. But I don't see him going to a certain situation and being able to thrive. I don't think he can go to Buffalo and thrive. I don't know if the Browns get him at the 1st or 4th pick. I don't think he can thrive there. I don't think he's going to thrive in New York. There's not enough building stones for him. I feel like he's one of those quarterbacks, you got to have pieces around him. Like Jared Goff, year 1, he was absolutely terrible. Everyone thought he was a bust. Year number 2 comes, dude gets all these weapons. Sammy Watkins, Todd Gurley. Everyone's improved. Everyone comes back, shows up. Huge season, playoffs, LA Rams. That's what I think Josh Allen could be. But I don't think Josh Allen could be that team who's going to change the entire franchise. I don't think he's a franchise quarterback, and I definitely don't think he's going to be a good quarterback. Now, I don't think the hype, he could possibly turn out to be like maybe like I said, like a Ryan Mallett ceiling. Like, I don't see him being like the next big thing, the next Carson Wentz, the next guy to come from a small school to be the big quarterback. And like I said, I'll own up to this if I'm wrong. But I won't be wrong. Because the thing is, Wyoming doesn't prepare you for the NFL. Oklahoma prepares you for the NFL because he had to play Georgia, Baker Mayfield. Sam Darnold got prepared, going to a bunch of BCS Bowls. Josh Rosen got prepared a little bit, I guess. But, I mean, Josh Rosen's arm is good enough to where he doesn't really have to, like, care at UCLA, which kind of sucked for Jim Mora, and it's probably why Jim Mora's out there lashing out on fucking Josh Rosen. Oh, he's like, he's terrible, I'd take Sam Darnold over him. I'm like, seriously? Man, that's when you know your head coach is salty that he got fired. He's just mad Josh Rosen got him fired. If Josh Rosen won him a national championship, he'd be like, Josh Rosen, my man. And now he's like, Josh Rosen, what the hell? I don't like this guy. Like, come on. Come on, Jim Mora, you're fired head coach. Quit being so goddamn salty. I mean, come on. Ugh. Sheesh. So, I mean, I get that Carson Wentz was from North Dakota State. But, like, everybody knew Carson Wentz was going to be special except for Cleveland somehow. So, like, the Eagles jumped on him, and they basically have, like, they're set for the future. I mean, what else does Philadelphia need? I mean, I just don't think Josh Allen's going to come in and be that transformative player. And I think he could if not a bust, he could at least like come out and carve like a solid like Ryan Mount type career, make a bunch of money. I just don't see him as a Sam Darnold or a Josh Rosen or a potentially Baker Mayfield or potentially even a Lamar Jackson, where he goes in and he like sort of, changes the entire franchise. I think it's, I think it's very sad because people are very hyping him up a little too much, to be honest with you. And I don't see it. I see Ryan Leaf. Like, that's when you guys talk about Baker Mayfield. Like, I see maybe like I see good comparisons. But when I see this, I see Ryan Leaf written all over this. Josh Allen, I just don't see him as a product in the NFL, as a finished product. I don't think he's gonna succeed. I don't think he's gonna be that team where he's gonna be able to like be like, hey, I need to do these things for myself, and I need to get them done. So it is what it is, you know what I mean? Like, Josh Allen's a bust, but, like, what are you gonna do? I mean, like, Josh Allen is Josh Allen, and it is what it is, okay? Like, you can't sit up here and be like, Josh Allen is this good, he's this bad. No, Josh Allen is gonna be garbage in the NFL. I know he's gonna be garbage. I've watched some of his tape. They say John Elway-esque. I say, like, come on, man. Like, really? John Elway-esque? Like, these guys don't even watch the goddamn tape. Like, damn. Get out of here, man. Jesus fuck Christ, John Elway-esque. I think he's going to be a bust. He's going to probably end up being like Ryan Leaf. Okay, so that is it for the draft storylines. That is your guide to the 2018 NFL draft. I don't want to keep you waiting any longer, so I am going to get into the mock draft for the top 10. I'm not like Cowherd. I'm not going to make like 20 of them. I'm just going to do one single NFL mock draft top 10 right now. So, with the number one pick in the NFL draft, the Cleveland Browns select quarterback from the University of Southern California, Sam Darnold, the franchise QB who may or may not get his career fucked up right now. Which I think Sam Darnold will do, actually, in seriousness. Sam Darnold will do a good job in Cleveland. I think the system is good for him. He will work with Hugh Jackson very, very well. I got to see the rest of the roster. I know he has Landry and Gordon, and obviously, I project him to get Barkley later, but that's for later. Like I said, dude has some good footwork. Dude has some potential in Cleveland. I think he could be the quarterback of the future. He could be the guy that changes it around just due to his quarterback mechanics and the way he sees the field and his field vision, and I've seen him in person, and the dude is just completely impressive. So, now, moving on to the number 2 pick of the NFL draft. Sorry, we have to announce a trade, a projected trade that I'm projecting. The Buffalo Bills trading the 12th pick and next year's first-round pick and a second-round pick for the number 2 pick in the draft. Now, the Giants, I figured they'd do this because they want Saquon Barkley a little later on. Or maybe they want to accumulate some picks for next year. Try to go for a quarterback next year because they know they got to play Eli this year because of the media narrative, and they don't want to get so much heat in the Big Apple. So, the Bills select quarterback Josh Rosen from the University of Los Angeles. Josh Rosen. Josh Rosen got injured a lot, didn't play too hard. His toughness is obviously a little lower than Sam Darnold. Now, his field vision is great. His arm is great. His pocket presence is great. When he's healthy, he's definitely one of the best quarterbacks in college football. So look out for this guy. Okay, so with the 3rd pick, if you remember earlier, the New York Jets made a trade with the Indianapolis Colts. Indianapolis Colts went down, got the 6th pick, but the Indianapolis Colts were able to accumulate some picks. The Colts didn't need the 3rd selection anyway. The Jets did for a quarterback. So, the New York Jets select Wyoming quarterback Josh Allen with the 3rd pick Now, here is why I think Josh Allen over Baker Mayfield. They will look at the Josh Allen film and they will say, okay, Baker Mayfield played well against bad teams, but so did Josh Allen. Here's the thing. We want a guy who's more mature, who's more composed, and the dude who can handle himself on the football field. And Josh Allen could be more of a professional than Baker Mayfield. Also in New York in a social media bonanza. So I think the Jets will take the calmer guy, Josh Allen, at number 3. The 4th pick I heard is getting shopped by the Browns, but I think my projection is they will keep it and they will draft running back Saquon Barkley out of Penn State, Nittany Lions. Saquon Barkley's put on so many explosive plays, had a Heisman-esque season. Penn State lost 2 games, obviously. Penn State didn't close those games out. They did their best to try and get a good season. Saquon Barkley is a very, very talented running back, so they did use him very, very well. Hurdles and him and Sam Darnold could be a very explosive combination. So good job to the Browns for drafting 1 and 4 and good positions. So at the number 5 position, they're also shopping their pick. The Denver Broncos. And I have them selecting linebacker Bradley Chubb. Bradley Chubb, I've seen him. He's shutting down defenses, shutting down the run, not letting anyone do anything. Just straight up baller, and the dude is just a complete professional off the field. Dude can do everything you need him to do, and he's going to come in. He's going to be what John Elway expects him to be, and I think it's going to be a perfect fit for him and Denver. I initially thought maybe someone else, like a running back or something, but upon further review, this looked like a better fit, and this looks like this will be the fit. Okay, so with the number 6th pick, the Indianapolis Colts select linebacker from the Georgia Bulldogs, Roquan Smith. So, Roquan Smith. This dude played lights out for Georgia last year, getting tackles, sacks, flying all over the field, defensive leader, absolute monstrosity, monster beast he was. And on the Indianapolis Colts, he will be an even bigger monster in this Colts defense that is desperate for linebackers and youth. So I think that the Colts do a good job by trading down to get some defense, which is their actual and real need, because they need to keep Andrew Luck off the field as much as possible, because the dude just keeps getting injured, man. So I think that'll be a good defensive gap filled for the Indianapolis Colts to show, like, hey, you know, we're here to helping you, Andrew Luck. So do what you need to do on offense, and we'll have to do on defense. Roquan Smith would be a perfect fit for this Indianapolis Colts defense. I think he'd come in, he'd be instantly the leader, and I think he would take over games, and I think he has the potential to be a really, really good linebacker in this league, and I think he will be. Okay, so with the 7th pick, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers pick, out of the Alabama Crimson Tide defense last year, safety Minkah Fitzpatrick. I think the Buccaneers want to make a splash in the draft. They have tried in years past. Second rounder, they traded up for Roberto Aguayo, who had a great kicking season with the Florida State Seminoles. That one didn't really work out as much as they planned it or thought it might. This one will work out. Clinton Dix was the last safety to go out of Alabama. Alabama's defense, Alabama plays SEC teams all year. They play NFL caliber teams all year. So Minkah Fitzpatrick should come in and be ready for business, because that's just how Nick Saban coaches, man. Nick Saban coaches those winners. He coaches those winners, and it's going to be very fun to see him in that Tampa Bay defense with Brent Grimes and Jason Pierre-Paul and Gerald McCoy. So we'll see what happens with that. That's a pretty good defense now looking for Tampa Bay if they get that one. Okay, so the Chicago Bears with the 8th selection. So I went back and forth on this, but I think the Chicago Bears will go defensive instead of going for the tackle from Notre Dame. I think they go for defensive lineman Darren Payne from the Alabama Crimson Tide defense as well. Number 94. Dude was an absolute monster beast. I think the Bears need a lot of pass rushers. Bears need some guys on defense more than offense. Obviously, they do need some offensive linemen and some offensive guards, but I think that's an issue for a different time. I think they should just go after defensive guys right now to try to build that defense and keep Trubisky on the field as much as possible, try to get him to develop. So this would be a great pick for the Chicago Bears. I think Daron Payne would really, really perform with this team. So with the 9th pick of the NFL draft, wide receiver Calvin Ridley from the Alabama Crimson Tide. So 3 straight Crimson Tide for you there. Calvin Ridley, I think, would be a great weapon for Jimmy G. They got Sherman on defense. Jimmy G got some okay receivers, but right now he needs a big splash guy, and I think Calvin Ridley will be that big play guy, the big splash guy in San Francisco. And Kyle Shanahan's offense. Kyle Shanahan is one of those guys. He's offensive whiz, offensive scheming. He'll find a way to put Calvin Ridley in spaces to succeed, and places where he can not show his weaknesses. And run blocking also, Calvin Ridley is very good. So Calvin Ridley should be one of those top 10 picks, I feel like, in terms of receivers, an only top 10 pick in terms of receivers, because the dude is just straight up talented, man. He's so talented, he can do everything, and he's just, how are you gonna guard him if there's against that Kyle Shanahan system? Whoa! Have fun, NFL defenses. That is gonna be one hell of a doozy. And the last and 10th pick of the mock draft, the Oakland Raiders select cornerback Denzel Ward from the Ohio State Buckeyes. Denzel Ward obviously played a key component in that Buckeyes defense all year. The dude is just straight up lights out, keeps everyone shut out, doesn't really do him. I mean, obviously he does get burned from day to day, but I guess everybody has a bad day, so let's not judge him on his one bad day. Hey, let's judge you on your bad day when you're laughing showered and you look terrible. You know what I mean? So I just don't want to judge Denzel Ward based on a couple of performances. Overall, he played pretty well, pretty decent guy. Obviously, he's now in the NFL, so obviously he played well enough to be in the NFL. The Raiders did try cornerback last year in Jaron Conley, but it didn't really work because the dude got arrested, and I don't really know what happened with him. So this year they're getting a better cornerback, hopefully, because last year it just didn't work out for them. They went out and got Conley. Conley got arrested, and we haven't heard from Conley ever since, which is kind of sad because I really like I really like Denzel Ward, but I don't know how he's gonna fit on that Oakland team with the John Gruden makeover. It could get quite testy at times, but I think it's a good pick. So those are the top 10 picks for my NFL mock draft in the top 10 drafts. So the draft is Thursday night at 5 o'clock, starting depending on where you are. 5 o'clock for me, West Coast time, 7 o'clock Central time, and New York time is 8 o'clock. So, it's going to be an explosive draft. Expect a lot of trades in the first round. Expect maybe the Patriots to go up. Like I said, Lamar Jackson interested in the Patriots. Browns trying to go after Baker Mayfield. Lots of interesting narrative storylines and mock drafts getting put out there right now. Obviously, I covered as many narratives as I could. I didn't want to get too outdated in terms of narratives, and I still covered a little bit before March Madness as well, so I didn't want to get too repetitive. Also, I don't want to make this video too long for people who are trying to watch short videos, people trying to, do other things at once. Obviously, like I've said, this is a podcast, so you should really not be, watching this. It's not really a visual thing. It's more of an audio thing. You just listen to it while you're washing the dishes or something. I mean, you know what I mean? Get creative with it. You don't have to just watch it when you're, for visuals. But anyway, that is my NFL mock draft and my guide to the 2018 NFL Draft. Thursday night, I will get this video either Wednesday night or Thursday morning, depending on how editing goes, because the last one took forever to render, so I don't know how long this one will take to render. So we'll see how that goes. NFL Draft 2018 should be fun. If there are more storylines by the time I edit and render and I put the stuff on, I will update on that, because, hey, it's the NFL Draft, and you got to stay informed. So I will update you guys on that if there are any changes. But for now, this is your 2018 NFL Draft for tomorrow night. And if not, if I don't come back, guys, enjoy it and watch this guide to show you everything that you need to know.